Hello and welcome to the Dogfight, a podcast dedicated to the London Spitfire and Overwatch League. Fasten your seatbelts and observe the no smoking sign, because today we'll be discussing London's dominant performance to put them in first place and their intense matches coming this week, as well as talk about some playoffs. I don't want to talk about playoffs. You just talk about playoffs.
Listen, we gotta talk about them at some point.
The
They're
bit
looming.
doesn't work if we talk about the playoffs. I'm going to be confrontational as possible about this.
They're called the first stage playoffs, so we gotta call them the playoffs.
I guess so.
Well, hi, my name's Jordan. For those who don't know, I'm be joining Havoc here today as we discuss all of this information. So let's just dive right on into the matches that we just went through last week between the Dynasty, I guess. I don't know if we can really even call them that anymore. Yeah. The Seoul Dynasty and then the Shanhai Dragons.
But out of the gate, ouch! You were absent for a little bit, Jordan.
I was
trying to get your internet situation.
Yeah, I moved, and then my internet would never work because that's what happens when you move. And Fios is terrible sometimes, so I'm finally back. And I came back at a great time for that really intense Seoul game. I was nervous, actually.
I was too. It was such an intense game, and I think that going into the game, I was so expecting Seoul to put up such a hard fight and it come down to the wire, unlike Lijiang Tower or something, and it would be really neck and neck. But Seoul really didn't do much.
I mean, I was betting, well, at least my prediction. I know I wasn't here last week to do my prediction. My prediction was 3-2 with London winning. Duh. I mean, that's why I'm here. But no, it was 4-0. We just destroyed them. I was screaming the whole time. I have no idea what happened. I think the biggest thing is Seoul trying to surprise London. That was the whole inside joke that they were trying to change up their roster to shock London, and London was like, whatever, we don't care.
The joke is on Seoul, though, because London ended up surprising Seoul way more than...
Yeah, no, I mean, there were literally 3 straight maps. London, did not let Seoul do anything. At all. They were just like, eh. It's kind of funny. It really looked like Seoul was having such a hard time. And I don't even really know why. I mean, everyone's like, oh, it's a Seoul Dynasty. Oh my god, they're the best team. And then now they're barely holding 3rd place. Barely.
Yeah, it's a really awkward position. I think a lot of people criticizing Seoul were saying, why would you not start Rujahong? He's your best player. He is your captain, your leader. Why are you having him ride the bench for this game?
They even made a tweet at London being like, oh, he's getting ready to come in. They made a winky face and they never brought him in. I don't know if they thought London was checking their Twitter to switch up their roster halfway through. I didn't understand that. I was reading it and I'm
Twitter.
Are they just expecting London to be like, oh man, Seoul tweeted at us, let's change our roster up. Hoo-hoo, he's coming in. I was like, okay, cool. It was such a rollout. I felt embarrassed for them. There's that GIF that's going around of that Seoul fan who is watching the game and his face just changes 50,000 expressions, and I'm that's probably how all of us felt watching them just crumble.
That's a good summation of what happened. I think to dive in a little in depth on it.
Yeah.
We started the full GC Busan roster for map 1.
Yeah.
We put in 3 players that had never played before in this stage.
Yeah, that was a little... I mean, it was kind of cool because, of course, we want to see them all play together, but of course, a little nervous because we haven't seen them play just yet. But of course, GC Busan, we have no worries.
Yeah, and I think the thing that really helped with that is, okay, so now, half of the London Spitfire that is playing, they have, no data on, unless it's, the preseason, which has happened so long ago. You can't even use that to look at VODs or anything, right? Unless they've been doing scrims. Yeah. So they're seeing oh, it's Hagapen and Closer and Wuhyul. How do we how do we go
do
against
anything?
this?
What do we do?
Yeah, and it just really caught them off guard, I think. And then, just going map after map, they're swapping out players and they're really changing how they play on each map. So Seoul has no way to anchor themselves and to really center themselves and go okay, here's the problems. We need to do
What do we do?
this. Yeah,
I
and
will say
they just
that
can't.
one of the biggest strengths of London in its entirety for this entire stage has been the fact that they have so many great interchangeable players. They can mix up every time. It will still probably work up. It'll work out well. That's something that every team up to this point is going to have a hard time with London. We have a fully stacked team of two really good teams that we just shoved into one. There's not very many other teams in the entire league that have that same luxury of having that synergy already there and then combining it. I think Seoul was probably the only other team that even had that, and we saw what happened. They got destroyed. They got crushed.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised to see. We fielded 11 out of the 12 people. I feel really bad for Fisher because he didn't get to play at all, and I feel that was kind of criminal. But
just sneak him in there, just slide him in there. We'll talk about some other people on the bench too, but that's
he's wearing like a gesture mask, like a cutout, and he's just like, no, it's me, gesture.
It's me. Yeah, no, just slide to him. He has a little dance walking up to the stage and everything. Perfect.
But yeah, we fielded like 11 out of the 12 members of a roster, and everyone played at just firing on all cylinders and doing exactly what they needed to do. The cohesion and the coordination was definitely there, and I was really surprised to see that you can really just kind of plug and play based on what you need to do, and they don't really drop in terms of play that much, and I think that's really fascinating.
I mean, I'm glad that so many of our players got to play. I wonder if I guess that means now there's technically VODs for every single player on our team, so I wonder how that's going to affect us moving forward, because there's not really any element of surprise anymore, technically. I mean, there's always the element of we can just change up team a little bit and send, new strategies based off that out, but there's still VODs now of every single player, so I wonder if that's going to do anything from this point forward. Not saying it'll do too much, but it might. It's kind of interesting to see if that will.
Yeah, it certainly could. I think it depends on exactly what the team so you can look at it from an individual perspective and try to watch film of okay, well, how does Closer play versus how does Ness play?
Yeah.
Right? But you're still not prepared for say you practice a lot on trying to deal with Hagopan or Wuhyal or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they just don't play them for 2 maps or something or at all. So you've wasted all this time trying to prep for this one strategy when London has 3 other configurations that they can do already lined up.
That's what I think Seoul was kind of banking on. That's honestly what I think Seoul was banking on London doing, and of course London was like, no, we're better than that. Oh god. I mean, I will say though, it is really nice after this big match that London did get a breather. We have seen what happens when London has 2 really big back-to-back games. What happens to them? I don't know if you have anything more to talk about with Seoul. Do you?
I do have a couple more interesting points.
Sure.
I think we're also definitely starting to see individual map strategies start to really be fleshed out. So, on Ilios, for example, and we also saw this with Shanghai Dragons, Bergering actually didn't play. They swapped
I noticed that.
For Hureg.
Yeah.
Which I think was very interesting.
Yeah, I wasn't for sure what was going on. You think they're just trying to have individual players kind of play individual maps, kind of I know it's the structure of the league. That's why they wanted to have a 12-man roster limit, so that way teams can be flexible and do that. So do you think that London's now going to try to implement that more with certain players?
I think so. I think they're really shifting towards maybe making more of their strategies based around what the map picks are, because it seems that Hureg is a lot more comfortable playing with the team on these sort of control maps. I think he doesn't go as too far deep, and it doesn't get as crazy around him as when you have Bergering always running in. because I think that
Yeah.
his play is maybe a little bit more measured. Plus, he seems to be like our dedicated Pharah. So
Yeah.
if you're on a map that needs a Pharah, you
He's
need a
there.
Hurrig in so he
He's
can play a
there.
Pharah.
He'll do it. No problem. Yeah, no, that's the one thing I'm kind of excited to see as the stages kind of go on, is more of these specialized player and specialized tactics per map. And of course, since it's stage one, we have only. This is probably the first time we're really starting to see it through not just London with more teams, but as we progress further until the very end, we're going to see it a lot more, I'm guessing. And it's going to be really interesting to see. I'm really excited to see what London does do with that, though. But
Yeah,
you're right.
I think also it'll be interesting how teams take this approach and handle it when the meta shifts. Like, and we'll talk about
Yeah.
this probably in like the next episode or two when we
Mhm.
actually get to stage two. But with the Mercy and the Junkrat nerfs, this will
Yeah,
most
that's
definitely
something.
it'll definitely like affect who you field and
Everything.
how the teams play. So like now they have to completely like maybe even just scrap what their approach was and then have to just start from scratch and say like, okay, well, how do we approach like Nimbani now, or how do we approach any of
Yeah,
the other
for those
maps
who
now?
don't know, I don't know if everyone knows because there were a lot of questions about this, especially towards this week's matches. So there was a huge nerf, of course, to Junkrat and Mercy, which has been wanted by the community for a really long time. Uh, Overwatch League is not going to be implementing those changes until stage 2. So right now, they're still playing in the old Mercy and Junkrat meta before all their nerfs, and they won't be implemented until stage 2. So right now, it's going to be just like nothing's ever happened, nothing changed. And then after the playoffs, that's when we'll see the changes for those who might not know that in particular. So it will be interesting to see Mercy kind of not be played as much and to see more of those other healers be played a lot more. I mean, Junkrat is like one of those heroes that I don't know. What would you switch him out with? Another DPS, I guess.
I think
Or
Junkrat actually isn't going away. His
yeah,
tire
I
is
don't
still
really.
extremely strong,
Yeah, like
and
I didn't
just
think he'd really
the
go
fact
as
that
much.
he can also just completely destroy any shields. So like he
Yeah,
makes the Orisa somewhat irrelevant. He makes Reinhardt irrelevant.
yeah,
He can tear through other tanks pretty quickly.
yeah. I think
So
the only change with him was just that his concussion mines they don't really do as much damage.
yeah,
Um,
it's sort of a radial thing. So like the farther away you are from
yeah,
the mine, the less damage it does.
yeah. I mean, so it wasn't that big of a nerf. It's the Mercy one that's really we're gonna have to keep our eye on towards stage 2 because I would love to see some more healers. I'd love to see what London can pull out um, with their support besides Mercy. But that's all coming stage 2, of course, with Soul, old patch, and we did well. Anything
Yeah.
else you got to say about Soul?
No, not really. I don't even think we have anything on Shanghai, to be honest. I mean,
I mean, you know what? I'll give Shanghai this. They tried their best. They pulled out a little bit of surprises. They didn't look absolutely terrible. They didn't look like Dallas or something.
yeah, so Shanghai has been a very interesting story to follow. I
Yeah,
think
Shanghai.
I think they've definitely been improving by like small steps
Mm-hmm.
to where they can maybe get to that point, but I think that they definitely will just have to kind of take a timeout in between stages, maybe get some new signings
More
to try to
players.
maybe beef up their roster, maybe make some
Yeah,
other changes, but
that's
you know,
like
you, you
that's
can't
like the big thing right now.
you can't have this performance repeat itself in the next stage.
No, they really have to step up and definitely get new players. Um, I mean, of course, it was kind of good for London to have an easy play after going against Seoul. We wouldn't really want themselves because we know they gave 150% against Seoul. To have another team that they would really have to also give another 150% would probably wear them out, kind of like what happened with Boston.
Yeah, yeah.
So the fact they won against Dragons is probably really good for them, that they got to do something a little bit less intense. So, of course, it was a 4-0. Not really too much to say
I,
about this
I
game, of course, but I mean, Dragons are
one,
trying, you know? They
yeah,
surprised me once or twice.
one last thing that I wanted to add
Yeah, yeah,
was
yeah.
going into the Shanghai match. I was actually a bit
Mm-hmm.
nervous because Shanghai actually made it really difficult for Seoul when they played against them.
Yeah,
And
no, I do remember that. It was kind of
yeah,
like they couldn't do anything like offensive. Like they couldn't get any points, but they made it hard for Seoul to get points in a way.
Yeah, and everyone was saying how like, oh well, Shanhai Dragons is slowly improving. So I was a little nervous that like, oh, they may actually like take a map off of us or something, especially on like Ilios, where our control map is not our biggest strong suit. But I was pleasantly surprised that we essentially just slaughtered them.
We just
effortlessly
picked our way through. We just stomped. We put out that dragon flame.
Yeah. we spit the hot fire.
Oh god. Ugh, I feel gross from saying that. That's pretty much it for the dragons. Do you have anything else to say about that one?
No, there's nothing really to say.
Yeah, I mean, they played. We won.
Yeah, they did play. Yeah, let's move on to the match previews for this week.
The last week of Stage 1.
It's going to be super exciting. We got a couple of really tense matches, actually. So Thursday,
I'm very excited.
February 8th at 9 p.m. Eastern, we play against the Houston Outlaws.
Ooh.
And Saturday, February 10th at 2 p.m. Eastern, we'll play against New York Excelsior.
Yeah, no, this is going to be a rough week for London, unfortunately. It kind of stinks that London's going to be going out with like a pretty hard final week. Of course, we're going to start with the game against the Houston Outlaws. Outlaws is looking fantastic. Not going to lie. I like, little disclaimer, I like Houston a lot. They've been doing really well. They just came off of a almost 20 map win streak. Almost. They lost one map. They lost one map. I forgot what game that was. Was that, I think it was San Fran. So they've been doing really well. And then they lost to Seoul last week. But the score was 3-2 with Seoul winning. So Outlaws have been looking pretty good. The DPS is, of course, Clockwork, Linkser, Jake, and Mendo, if he ever becomes free.
Free Mendo.
Free Mendo. Listen, free Mendo. And then Flex, of course, we got Cool Matt, we got Spree. The main tank is Muma, and then support is Boink, Bonnie, and Raucus.
We actually haven't seen a lot of Raucus lately.
He's been in every game. Raucus has been around. I gotta say characters. What is this? The players you don't see very much, at least on Houston. Mendo, of course, Mendo has not played a single match. Of Stage 1.
Oh yeah, we haven't seen Spree either, have we?
Spree we've seen like twice. Clockwork they just brought out Clockwork.
They keep putting him in over Linkser for some reason, which
Linkser was
me.
sick. Linkser was sick, and so was Mendo.
Oh, he was sick.
Yeah, they're both sick.
That explains it.
So, yeah. So Clockwork has been subbing for the DPS role because both Linkser and Mendo were both sick. So apparently Linkser's feeling better now, so I wouldn't doubt him to be playing against us. That's probably the biggest threat when it comes to the Outlaws. I mean, Jake is a fantastic DPS. He can play pretty much anything. He's probably going to be playing Junkrat, not going to lie.
He's going to be playing
and he's a great Junkrat. One of the best. Linkser is a great Widow. I'm very excited to see Birdring versus Linkser. I'm very excited for it. That's going to be pretty great 1v1. Besides that, we're definitely going to see Muma. Muma's in every game. We'll probably see Raucus again doing, I don't know, probably Zen. So, I don't know. I feel like London has a lot of opportunities to switch around who they want to play in order to surprise Houston. Houston doesn't have as many subs as London does. But I think the biggest threats that London's really going to focus on is going to be Jake and Linkser, for sure. Muma also,
most
but
definitely.
Yeah, Linkser's going to be the really tricky one because his Widow can be very, very good if you give him the space, at least. So hopefully,
And this is something that I'm kind of harping on back from when CJ and I were talking about the Boston Uprising match.
Yeah.
When we did that episode. The Houston Outlaws basically revolve all around their DPS. So if their DPS is doing really well, the Outlaws will do really well. And they've been on this really good hot streak because Jake...
The DPS is really good.
Yeah. Jake and Linkser have been just crushing it. So if you can figure out a way to take Jake out of the equation and take Linkster out of the equation, or take both out of
One
the
of the
equation.
two. Yeah, at least one. At least one.
Yeah, if you take at least one, the Outlaws won't be able to really do much. You'll practically cripple them, and
Yeah.
then they'll really struggle to try to form a strategy to break out of that.
Like, in order to break through. So, it's going to be a hard game. I think London will still win. I have no doubt. Actually, I don't really have a doubt that London's going to win. I think Houston's going to give them a run for their money and make it hard for them to win, but they're still going to win. That makes it. I think it'll probably be like, I would probably say it would a 3-2. I could see it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I can see it.
I think London's tank line and their supports are superior to Houston, I think.
Yeah, but the DPS on Houston is just fantastic. So as long as we keep the focus there and shut them down quick, we should be okay.
Yeah, I could actually see them maybe putting in Fisher just to have an extra bit of aggression on the front line,
Actually,
because
yeah, no, I could see that.
like a really aggressive Winston, so he can just kind of jump in and really get on Jake, like I mean really get on him, then it'll just cause a lot of problems.
Get him. Just get him. So yeah, I think it'll be 3-2. It will be a great game to watch though. That's definitely one to watch.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The last game of this week is going to be a hard one. We're going against New York.
To it. It's going to be tough.
It's going to be tough. These are the two best teams in the league right now. They're tied for first. Technically, we're in first place. Technically. But same score, 7-1. I mean, their DPS is legendary with both Zibiobli and Pine. I know I just butchered that name, but it's fine. I mean, what else can you say about them? They have one of the best DPS lines in the league. And their supports are fantastic. I don't know too much about their tank line as much, personally, but it's definitely going to be their hardest game. I'd probably say out of all the games they've played.
Yeah, for sure. I think from front to back, New York just looks to pretty much be on like the London Spitfire's level in terms of strength. Everyone on that team is super good. I can't really think of like a flaw. I mean, Sabiolbi and Libero are perfect, and then you have Pine, who's just like this.
The Pine. Is like you can't even say Pine anymore. It has to be the Pine with like a trademark on it and everything.
His play is just so good. Like every time they put the camera on him, he's just running around on McCree, and he's just shooting everyone, and he's not even like being defensive. No. He's just standing there, and he's just shooting everyone and getting kills.
I mean, the one thing that London is going to have to really do is the same thing they did with Seoul, is change up their lineup. Keep New York guessing to what they're going to do. That's literally probably the saving grace that London has, because New York cannot sub that much. They really can't. They can only sub one of their DPSs, well, technically two if you count Miko. You can sub him out for flex, but there's really, there's not very much variation that they can do. So if London can keep switching them around and trying to get that advantage, that would probably really help them. Kind of same thing they did with Seoul.
Yeah, I think definitely our depth is going to be the thing that will probably win us this game and a lot of other tough games, really. Because we just have so many resources that you can really kind of funnel and distribute if someone's not performing, or if
I wonder if we're going to do like we did with Seoul. We start with we start with like the teams kind of together before we mix them around again.
Yeah, I think that could definitely be a strategy. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. It seems like that's kind of what we've been leading up to.
But at the same time, I don't know. It's going to be a very intense game. This is definitely a game that I see going to Game 5. This is going to go to Game 5.
I think, I don't know. I'm not sure if I can really call who can win that one, just because there are a lot of variables.
I gotta say London. I'm going to put my faith in London. You gotta say it. His contract. blood contract. We're forced
Blood
to.
contract.
But yeah, no, it's definitely going to go into a game 5 though, and it's going to be like a overtime. Game 5. It's going to be pretty bad for stress levels. Do you have anything else to say about next week's games at all?
Not really. I think that I suppose my final thoughts for New York, just try not to get too frustrated. And just
try not
if
to
you
break
lose a
the
map,
TV
it's
screen.
fine. You have another map to try to get them. Just don't worry about it.
You know what? And this totally leads us into the playoff info that you refuse to really admit is actually a thing.
Yeah.
This is the good tie-in. So basically, we are almost at the end of Stage 1. For people who don't know the format of the Overwatch League, we have 4 stages that lead off to the final playoffs, which then lead to, who's going to be the winner of this first season. So basically, at the end of every stage, you do have a playoff. And the playoffs give you certain points, which then lead to that very final playoff at the end of all 4 stages. So right now, our standings, we are in first place, followed by New York, then Seoul, then Houston, then Boston, LA Valiant, Philadelphia Fusion, San Fran Shock, LA Gladiators, Dallas Fuel, Florida Mayhem, and then last place is the Dragons. So what does this kind of mean for us, for London? So right now, London and New York are both tied with 7 wins and 1 loss. And for right now, we are guaranteed to go into the playoffs. There is there's not much of a chance for us not to go to the playoffs at this point.
The only thing that we were competing for is the bye, right? We're trying to see if we can get that bye, right?
Yeah. That's pretty much it. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, because we're top in the league. Technically, there's only one possible way we don't get first in the league, for entering into the playoffs. So right now we're 7-1. Same thing with New York. Seoul Dynasty is at 6-2. Seoul needs to win at least a game in order to stay within the top 4 safely. Because the top 4 is the ones that go to the playoff. Seoul needs to at least win 1 game in order to stay into the playoffs. But for 4th place, there are 4 teams competing for 4th place right now. And if any of them win both games, and London, for some reason, loses both games, they could technically take out London's spot in first and bump them down to somewhere within the top 3. That's really the only fear we have. It's kind of crazy that there's 4 teams competing for 4th place. I don't really know how I feel about it.
That's kind of humorous.
It's kind of crazy. The 4 teams are Houston, Boston, Philly, Valiant, and technically Seoul if they get bumped out of the 3rd place spot. But yeah, I know it's kind of crazy because one of those are going to be in 4th place. So the good thing is that London is pretty much guaranteed at this point to be at least in the playoff. If they're in 1st place going into the playoff, we're going to have to see. Depends on how they do against New York and Houston. But yeah, we should be fine going in. I think that London will stay in its place. If not, we'll be maybe bumped to 2nd if Houston decides to do something or if New York does something. But overall, that's basically all it is for the playoffs. I know it doesn't sound very exciting. That's what happens when you root for a team that's in 1st place. There's not too much fear, The downside of rooting for a really good team, God.
Yeah, that was a good rundown, though.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people... I mean, that's one of the biggest things that I would say that's a problem with Overwatch League, if I should say there's a problem. I know that's a sin to say. Their structure is very confusing.
It is kind of confusing.
Because you're why are there playoffs in between stages? I mean, I don't really get that much either. I know there's a bonus for 1st place at the very end of the playoff. I think it's $125,000 for all the players or something.
Yeah, it's a lot.
The split between the players. I think it's a cash bonus if you win. I'm not like 100% sure. I'm like 99% sure of that, which is why like being in first place would be really nice for London. It gives them more money. It makes Papa, I was like Papa Jeff. Oh my god, I'm so tired. Papa Jack proud. Papa Jack proud. Seeing-eyed. Gotta make him proud.
Make him proud.
Make him proud. Make him proud of all of us. Get each of the players $125,000.
So, Jordan, one question I have for you is, do you think that the Seoul can realistically get bumped out of the playoffs?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Their matches.
It doesn't really take much in order to get Seoul out of there.
Their matches this week are against Valiant and the Shock.
So, I think Seoul needs to at least win one game in order to stay in the playoffs. Unfortunately, the first game is against Valiant. And the thing with Valiant is that they are a very good team, but they're not a very consistent team. They have a lot of really good players, but they're not consistent. Kind of like Seoul. They're just not really consistent. And Seoul is going on like a big slope at the moment. I'm not really sure what's going on with them. So if it happened to be that Valiant won against Seoul, Seoul would have to win against San Fran in order to stay in the playoffs. Which I think could be done. Not being rude to San Fran. They're decent players, but I don't think they could beat Seoul. Like, I don't think they're that good.
No, San Francisco doesn't have their star players due to the age rule. So there's no way they can beat Seoul with like Baby Bay. I'm sorry, it's just not gonna happen.
So as I said, there's technically Seoul could be bumped out of the playoffs, but is it very likely? No, I don't think so. I think they'll be able to win at least against San Fran. But of course, that's when you get a little concerned with Houston, Boston, and Philly. Because honestly, the best out of those that have a chance to make it into the playoffs is Boston. Because all Boston needs to do, first of all, they go against Houston. If Boston could beat Houston, it's automatically won. And then I think they go against, Philadelphia. So I think if Boston can beat both Houston and Philadelphia, they're automatically in. Like, I feel like they have the best chance. As much as I like Houston, Houston would have to beat London in order to make it to the playoffs. So they would have to, it'd be very hard for them. They have to beat Boston and London in order to make it to the playoffs for Houston.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I'm actually a fan of the Boston team just because of in the preseason everyone was just like, oh, they're
rising. They're rising.
They're such a dumb team. The name is dumb. The color is dumb. The logo is dumb. This roster is a hodgepodge of different players.
But they do well.
Yeah, exactly.
They're good.
I mean, Dreamcasper and Striker.
He is probably
such great players to get around. And then you have like Donsu and all these others.
If anything happens to the Genji meta at all, I have no idea what that team's going to do, though. I will say.
Yeah. So, same with Fusion and Shadowburn, right?
Yeah, no idea.
Because they rely so much on their Genji play.
I was wondering, that's actually something I was wondering about with the new, when Stage 2 and Mercy isn't going to be in the meta as much anymore. Moira is probably going to rise up, and Genji can't, Genji can technically do damage to Moira, but she's a good counter to him, because he can't get as close to her, because she can just suck the life out of him. So yeah, I wonder if that's going to cause issues for teams such as Philly and Boston, who really do rely on Genji. So that's something to think about for Stage 2. But that's for the playoffs,
It'll be interesting, and again, we'll talk about this more probably in depth on that specific episode whenever that happens.
Probably, I'd probably say like 2 weeks.
Yeah, like probably.
But it's a summary. London is, I'm probably saying London is 99.9% going to the playoffs. There's only a tiny chance that they will. Actually, no, they're guaranteed to go to the playoffs. Same with New York. So even if we don't win against New York this coming week, we got to go against them again pretty soon, so we can have redemption.
Do you want to do predictions on who will be the top 4 teams going to the Stage 1 playoffs?
Yeah, no, we can totally do that. So I guess I'll start with that. Number 1 is going to be, I'll say London will stay number 1. I think they can do it. Number 2, I'll stick with New York. Number 3, this is where it gets tricky. Is like the 3 and 4 is where it's going to get tricky. I think number 3 will actually be Boston. I think 4 will be Seoul. I think Seoul will be bumped down 1 because of the fact that they'll lose a game. But I feel like Boston will be able to win both their games and come up. So that's what I think, actually.
Okay. I think 1 and 2 are pretty interchangeable. I think London and Excelsior will basically just fight over position.
Yeah.
I think other than that, probably Seoul and Houston will just keep their spots where they are.
Yeah,
I actually don't see them changing that much.
The 4th spot is going to be so interchangeable, and this week is going to really determine who's going to be number 4. I would love Outlaws to be number 4. Again, I love the Outlaws. I would love for them to be number 4. I just know for a fact that Boston is going to have an easier time getting that 4th place spot than Houston does. Unfortunately, that's just how these rounds work. If Houston can pull it off, then, good for them. I'm proud of them, but, I'll stick with Boston for being number 3 and everything, and Seoul going down to Valiant for now, but we'll see. This week will be a very interesting, stressful week for all of us.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the games this week. I'm going to try to watch as much as I can because it'll definitely be exciting.
Yeah, no, there's actually near me, there's going to be an event. There's going to be an Overwatch viewing party. Anyone in the DC area, you guys should check out, I believe it's the DC Esports club. They're going to have a 21 and up Overwatch League viewing party in DC. So, you guys like Overwatch League, you should try to look that up in order to join. So, you can meet me there. I'm a cool person.
Oh yeah, that sounds awesome. You'll have to come back.
And let you know how it is.
You'll have to come back next week and tell us all about that.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of excited. I mean, I just turned 21. Another reason why this week's been kind of crazy.
Yeah, you get drunk.
I know, right? I can get drunk and watch
legally.
Overwatch. Yeah, gotta say the legally part, right? So yeah, I'll definitely let you know how that viewing party goes because I'm very excited for it to actually go to one. I know a bunch of teams are trying to sponsor their own, so it's going to be really interesting to see how well it transfers over to just regular going to a bar. So I'll definitely let you guys know how that works. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
I think that's going to do us for today.
Yeah.
So
our very short 2-person chat for tonight.
I actually like the 2-person format. I think it's a lot better than
it's a little it's a bit more together, we don't have to worry about interrupting each other as much. At least I hope not. I don't want to be that rude.
Yeah, it just helps manage the conversation like this a bit better, especially when it's not as long as the other show I do.
Yeah, this week hasn't really been too, I guess, exciting besides for the Seoul game and then what's going on next week, or I guess this week now. But yeah, just a nice little quiet week.
Yeah. All right. Well.
All right. Guess we're good.
Please put your tray tables up and return your seats to their full upright positions as we are zooming right in for a landing. So thank you for listening to our podcast, and we hope to see you in the skies real soon.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye.